And here we go. All right. We got a guest. We got a guest on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast, we got New York Joe by request. What's going on, Joe?
Oh, I got it. I got to tell you, Scott. I'm in the Jewish religion. When someone dies, they have what they call a wake, and they call it sitting shiva. And I'm sitting shiva because the NFL season is over. And
oh no, yeah,
yeah. I mean, man, I don't realize how much I like the NFL. I can't even, the NBA I can barely stomach anymore, and I'll get into that later.
I used to like the XFL, and now the UFL. I don't really get into that at all now.
Yeah, I can't get in. I don't know the players, so that's the biggest problem. I'm waiting on. I do like college basketball when they get to the tournament and stuff. I think that's kind of neat, and that's about a month away. So and then
the Florida Gators have won 3 very convincing games back to back.
I'm actually liking the Gators this year.
Yeah, I think it might be actually a 5-game winning streak, but I'm really enamored at the last 3 games where they blew out Texas A&M, they blew out Georgia, and they beat Kentucky pretty bad on Saturday night on Valentine's Day. And so Florida's playing much better now in February than they played, say back in November and December.
Which is the way you want to do it. And I look for them to be a force in the tournament this year.
They won the whole thing last year.
I know. They're the defending champ. I don't know if they can win it again. There's some tough teams in there, but man, with college basketball, you get a couple of players, and they got some players that come through, and you play some defense. Arizona, I've watched them one game. I wasn't that impressed, and now they've lost 2 games back to back.
Yeah.
Houston plays good defense, but I'm not impressed with their offense and stuff, So
we'll see what happens. Joe, what happened in the Super Bowl? I know Seattle won 29-13 over the Patriots.
Yeah.
It seemed like it came down to the quarterback play, the defensive line play for Seattle. Basically we were looking for a number 14 here a couple episodes back, and it turned out you said, hey, Sam Darnold, after we recorded the podcast, you said, hey, Sam Darnold was 14. And so maybe that was like a good luck charm for him to wear 14.
Could have been. Yep. And I got it the other, but I don't. You watched the game, and the impression that I had was when Seattle went up 6-0. In my mind, the game was over. Seattle was going to win that game. There was New England had no chance. They made a little move in the second half. Did you actually? Now this may be something you might not have known, that Drake May had the most passing yards in the fourth quarter in Super Bowl history of any quarterback in the Super Bowl. Drake May had the most passing yards, but it was the garbage time.
Yeah, it was. Now Drake May got 2 touchdown passes. The first one was in a key part of the game where they still could have come back and maybe come from behind and maybe somehow won it. But that second touchdown, that was definitely a garbage time touchdown.
And the other one was he tried to force it, and that ball got picked off, intercepted, whatever it was, ran for a touchdown. That game was over because it was, I didn't think they had a chance, but it was relatively close. But when they hit that pick 6, then it was over. What was that? About 8-9 minutes left in the game or something like that. Not sure.
That sounds about right. But, Joe, I look back at the stats today. I never really, when you and I talked last time, we just were talking about our impressions of the game, gave everybody the score. But then I went back and looked at the stats this morning. And I said, Drake May really didn't have that bad of a game. He was 27 out of 43, 295 yards passing. But the blemishes, 2 touchdowns, but the 2 interceptions were key that he had.
And but not only that, he had a fumble too. He had 3 turnovers.
Yeah, he had 6 sacks. Seattle sacked him 6 times for 43 yards. based on, and I know a lot of people don't really look at this, but the quarterback rating, he had a 79.1, Sam Darnold at 74.7. QBR, Sam Darnold, if you follow that kind of thing, he had a better QBR, obviously, than Drake May. But, in my mind, the 2 interceptions by Drake May and the 6 sacks by the Seattle defensive line, that kind of told the story. And maybe a sidebar, and a big sidebar, is that Sam Darnold had 1 touchdown pass, but no interceptions, and he was only sacked 1 time.
Yeah. Well, you had 3 turnovers and 6 sacks, and you better go ahead and tell me what quarterback's going to win a big game with 6 sacks and 3 turnovers.
Can you believe it? Sam Darnold?
I can't think of one.
Getting a ring. He's getting a ring, Joe.
It goes to show you, and I'm kind of a little halfway decent New York Jets fan because I'm from New York, but boy, you get drafted by the Jets and you're going into a black hole.
Yeah.
You're hoping to get traded or released so you can revive your career, which he did in San Francisco, Minnesota, and Seattle.
Hey, that's why Namath is still so huge.
Yeah,
because the last time they won it was him.
And speaking of Seattle, did you know Seattle was 60-1 to win the Super Bowl
in the preseason?
And the preseason, it was like the first time in 30 years that it's long shot like that.
Joe? Did you have some action on that, Joe?
No, the reason why they were 60-1 is because nobody believed in Sam Darnold, because last year in Minnesota they did great until the last game of the season. Mm-hmm. He had the turnovers, then they lost the playoff game to I believe it was the Rams. And that was it for Sam Darnold. They figured he'd gone back to his old New York Jet ways, but boy, was he wrong. And he had the right coach. Kubiak was the right coach for that guy.
So a lot of people before the Super Bowl, but while the playoffs were going on, a lot of people in our Facebook group said, man, the team that's going to win it all is coming out of the NFC, particularly when we got to the Rams and the Seahawks. And the Seahawks did beat the Rams, and that was a key game, that NFC title game.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
The Seahawks and the Rams, I believe, were the 2 best teams in the league. And, going back to last week when I talked to you, I said I like New England. I thought New England could keep it close, but I was wrong on that. But the Rams and Seattle were the 2 best teams clearly this year.
To our way of thinking, and I'll say this in our defense. You remember when you said deny. I will say in our defense, we both said Seattle had the better team, but when you come down to one game, you're talking about winning one game, and we thought the Patriots had a shot.
I thought Drake May would make a difference running the football, and now he did. He was I think he was New England's leading rusher. I'm not positive. He ran a few times, but the turnovers were just the killers.
The pressure, the 6 sacks, the 2 interceptions. You said May had a fumble too. Joe, were you having an adult beverage over there?
I have. I'm usually a Coors Light guy, but I didn't have any in the fridge, and I found a Guinness. So
I thought that was a Mr. Pibb or something. That's an adult beverage.
Yeah, I don't drink sodas.
So you got you.
I drink adult beverages and water.
Where's the stogie at, Joe? I haven't seen the stogie.
I got it right here, buddy.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
There you go.
Joe, now we know Seattle won the game 29-13. That's the biggest part of the Super Bowl is the teams that play, and especially the team that wins. But I will tell you this. I had gone out for a little while, and when I got back, it was the tail end of the halftime show. I saw Jack Bunny or what was his name?
Whatever, close enough.
Jack
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. He was coming off the field right when I got back to World Headquarters. He was coming off the field. The halftime show was ending, and what was the score at halftime? 6-0. It was 6-0 or 9.
No, I think it was 9-0. Was it 9-0?
Yeah, and then I think Seattle kicked another field goal in the third quarter. It was actually 12-0 at one time.
But yeah, I think it was 9-0 at halftime.
But what about the halftime show, Joe? Hey Joe, what are you hearing about? There were a lot of complaints about the halftime show.
Well, the fact that we live in America where the language is English and the whole halftime show was done in Spanish was depressing to say the least. And then if you look on the internet and they give the translation, and I'm not a
bad lyrics.
Yeah, there was some bad stuff said in that song where if it was somebody singing that in English, they'd have pulled them off stage. Yeah. So that was real not appropriate for the Super Bowl. Appropriate for the club maybe on the weekends or something like that, but not appropriate for you got kids watching the game and stuff wholesome. Like that.
Need more wholesome entertainment, like like Paul McCartney or somebody like that. Like Paul McCartney was in the Super Bowl in Jacksonville years ago, and Paul's gotten older though. But there's plenty of other guys you could have had.
Well, I'll tell you, Kid Rock, I watched an interview with him the other day, and he made a good point. He said, you're having the game in San Francisco. He said the band to have for the halftime show out of San Francisco is Metallica.
Oh, that would have been nice, yeah.
And he goes, and they blew it last year because the game was here in New Orleans, and they didn't involve Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is the New Orleans icon. And you got to get him in the show and stuff.
They could have satisfied our executive producer, JC. Our executive producer, JC, loves Def Leppard. Why not Def Leppard?
Why not?
That's true.
Why not? He's spinning some Def Leppard on the podcast in the club.
Yeah.
In the pub?
Yeah, JC's in the pub on Thursday nights. You can find the link on our website. Yeah. Good show.
Yeah. Hey, it's a good show. I encourage everybody to turn in to hear some good old time rock and roll and proud to be in American music.
LakeuvalleHits.com. That's JC runs it off of that internet site. And Max has a good show on Wednesday nights. And heck, they're sponsors of the Teal Shirt Report podcast, along with Salsa Realty and Capital in North Florida. So we got a lot of things going on, Joe. But let me ask you this, and this may spin it in another direction, but you got Roger Goodell, and you got the NFL kind of pushing the envelope in one way or another. Who made the decision to have Bad Bunny on the halftime show? Who made the actual decision?
JC.
JC?
Who the NFL signed a contract with to be in charge of the halftime show. Yeah. And he picks the people to be in the halftime show based on YouTube and other playlists and stuff, which I don't, whatever. It's the same thing every year. Kendrick Lamar last year, all the rest of the rappers the year before. I mean, come on. When's the last time there was a country singer? That's wild. When's the last time there was a rock and roll band? What are you doing?
Hey, you got Pat Travers coming to Jacksonville on Park Street at the 5. You got a lot of venues in Jacksonville too, and we have concerts listed on our Big J Report.com website in the Neighbors 2 section. But I see what you're saying. I got a text message from a good friend of mine. Just for our purposes, we call him the Colonel. He was in the Army, in fact. But he did.
You got hey, Guy, you got little nicknames for everybody, don't you?
Yeah, it looks like he sent me a text message after the halftime show because I had sent him a text to listen to our podcast. He said and then he called me the Teal guy. And then he said Jay-Z is a stick. Does that mean he's a fish stick, or what does that mean, Joe?
Stick. I don't know what that means, to be honest with you.
STYK. Maybe he was
maybe that's maybe that's some kind of a military term. You said he's the colonel, so I don't know.
Right. That's right. So you'd give a thumbs down on the actual halftime show, right?
I give a big thumbs down.
And then let me see, the show that was online that had Kid Rock on it. Did you watch some of that?
Yeah, I did watch some of that.
Yeah.
They had some country and western singers. They had Kid Rock coming out. I mean, it was wholesome entertainment. It wasn't like it wasn't like calling a 900 line for a 900 talk dirty line or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. It's just and there's no place for it here in the NFL. That's a different kind of genre and stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about football. Let's entertain the people. And I don't know if you saw this or not, but there was some what do you call it? Like tape of people in the stands at the game. And they were like, nobody was dancing, nobody cared about it, nothing.
Yeah. What do you think, Joe? It's 70 to 80% thumbs down on him. There were a few people that liked it, but not many.
Yeah, and the ratings dipped, and that meant that the second half dipped, which means the sponsors that were paying $10 million for 30-second commercials were not happy. So I'm not sure where the NFL's going with that.
Joe, the best commercial was the Freebird Leonard Skinner commercial, the Budweiser commercial. Had to have been.
Yeah, no doubt about it, which I clued you in on that ahead of time.
You did, yeah.
And, even though Budweiser was looked at in a bad light with the whole Bud Light thing from last year, they're trying to make a comeback. And gosh, man, I watched that commercial a couple of times this week. It is so inspirational. And, being that I used to be in Jacksonville and stuff, and gosh, you just got to love Leonard Skinner and Freebird. Those are true Americans.
It made you listening and watching that commercial made you proud. And then particularly, I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I feel extra proud about that, and I know you do too. And all the original members from Leonard Skinner sadly have passed on. However, on Mad Max's show on Wednesday nights at madmaxmix.weebly.com, Max brings their music back to life. He plays a lot of the old classic rock. He even pulls out the White Rabbit, Joe, the old Jefferson Airplane.
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Wait, I got to go back for a second. Yeah. Are you telling me that Johnny Van Zant was not one of the original members?
No, Johnny Van Zant is Ronnie's much younger brother. Johnny had his own band in the early 80s. Johnny's probably 2 years older than me. Johnny and I went to the same junior high school as we both went to Lakeshore Junior High back in the day. But Johnny was maybe a year ahead of me in school, but he's actually, I think, at least two years older or more than me. Johnny had a band in the early 80s called the Johnny Van Zant Band. After Ronnie died in the plane crash in 77, I forget how many years it took. Mad Max would know better than me, but Johnny did eventually take over as the lead singer of Leonard Skinner when they decided.
I thought he was in the band originally, and then the guitar player with the long, the tall guy with the long blonde hair, he wasn't an original either.
You need to listen to the Mad Max show. He's a true Leonard Skinner aficionado.
I know we're getting off subject here, but
I think Alan Collins was in the band a long time, and Alan Collins, a lot of these guys were in the plane crash. They had some survivors.
What's the one guy, Rossington? He just passed away not too long ago.
Yeah, Gary Rossington just passed away like about 2 years ago.
Oh, I didn't even know it had been that long. Okay.
You need to listen to the madmaxmix.weebly.com. You'll love Max's show. He plays a lot of the old Leonard Skinner music. He really does. Atlanta Rhythm Section, a lot of great old classic rock.
Well, that's on Wednesdays, right?
Wednesdays, yes, sir. 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I catch that. I catch that once in a while, but I really wasn't thinking that far in depth and stuff. He does a great job. Him and JC do a great job Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Mad Max is on Wednesday nights. JC is on Thursday nights. In fact, it's on the bottom of our scroll on our on our podcast here.
Oh,
Also,
I know.
the Jacksonville Icemen, East Coast Hockey League, they lost on Valentine's Day night 2-1 to the Savannah Ghost Pirates in overtime. Been a down year for the Icemen. But what about the NBA, Joe? You kind of soured on the NBA like a lot of us.
I got to tell you, Scott, I used to love the NBA back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. I mean, I was a giant Larry Bird fan, but I was also a Dr. J fan. I met him one time. He was a really cool guy. He was down to earth. I went to I had some friends of mine that worked for the Miami Heat back in when they first started out, and they got me front row tickets across the bench from when the Heat played the Boston Celtics in like 88, 89. And there's Bird and McHale and Johnson and Parrish and stuff. And oh my gosh, those guys, it was fun to watch. And now you went to see the Boston Celtics come to play the Miami Heat. You went to see Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge.
Mm-hmm.
And now you go to see, let's say that one of the new kids, you go to see the San Antonio Spurs. You want to see Wembley and whatnot and other players and star. Oh, load management. Oh, they're tired. The NBA is trash. All they do is throw up 3-pointers.
Right.
They're averaging. There's teams that are averaging I forget. All right, and I have to quote somebody that's not, Colin Coward.
There's no in-between game. It's either a dunk or a 3-pointer now.
In the last 5 years, there was 300 games that had 80 or more 3-point attempts.
Wow.
In the 10 years prior to that, there was 5 games. Now, it might have been 10 years and then 10 years, but 300 games to 5 games.
Well, now you've got corruption in the NBA too with the gambling, right?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. That
Who was the main guy, Joe, that they arrested?
Chauncey Billups, wasn't it?
Billups, yeah, Chauncey Billups. Who was actually a head coach.
Yeah.
Who was he coaching?
He was head coach of Sacramento, and I mean, he was involved. They were involved in these big high stakes poker games and stuff like that. I mean, it's like these guys. You can't. They made a ton of money. All they want is more money. They'll do whatever they want. They go. It still goes back to the gangster mentality.
Joe, you knew a lot of them guys. You knew a lot of them guys back in the day, but you told me, you swore up and down that all the characters you knew had already passed away. Is that right?
Well, for a lot of them, let's say a lot of them have. Unfortunately, and it's just sad to see what's become of. The NBA particularly. I'm disgusted with them. Tanking, load management. I mean, where's the pride here? Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. I got because I played basketball back in school, and
sure. I love basketball.
I was on a Western Division championship team in Jacksonville when I was at Lakeshore Junior High in the 9th grade. But I'm going to tell you that back in the day, there's things you couldn't do. How many do they ever call traveling in the NBA now, Joe?
No, Scott, they don't. They don't call palming. They don't call traveling. And every once in a while, I'll see a clip on X or something like that. And it's like they're choreographing a dance routine for the cheerleaders.
The 3-step slam dunk.
I mean, and it's kind of like the old, let's pull Leonard Skinner back into it. Give me 3 steps and give me 3 more steps.
That's probably about right, Joe. I'll tell you what.
You look, college basketball is so much better than the NBA, boy. I'll tell you. But maybe I'm going in the wrong direction now, too, with the NILs and stuff. Who knows?
When I was a kid, and I'm still kind of, I've still been a Hawks fan, Atlanta Hawks fan for years. But when I was a kid, they had a head coach there. I think he was the best head coach the Atlanta Hawks ever had, Hubie Brown.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Cotton Fitzsimmons.
No. Well, Cotton Fitzsimmons was before Hubie Brown, but Hubie did one thing a lot of coaches aren't able to do. He got his team to buy in and play defense back in the late 70s with the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, yeah, that was when you talk to guys and you can say, hey, I need you to play some defense, and guys would play defense.
They would.
Dennis Johnson from the Celtics, he was a defensive guy. Bird was one of the all-time great NBA players. You didn't want to have Bird covering you.
Yeah.
You did not want Bird covering you.
Let me ask you a question. Just
I'll tell you one more thing real quick, Scott. Michael Cooper from the Lakers.
I remember that name. Yeah, he did play.
I don't believe that he ever made an all-star team, but he was a shutdown defensive player. Nobody wanted Michael Cooper covering you.
Yeah. I heard Larry Bird talk about I think it was either the 5 players that gave him the most trouble on the court or 7 top players, and it was all the stars, but he had a guy that he mentioned also, Sidney Moncrief, that knew how to really play him pretty good.
Okay. I remember Sidney Moncrief. He played for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, he did play for the Bucks. Yeah.
I know that Bird said also that Cooper gave him a big problem too. But I also know that one time the Detroit Pistons, back when they had Rodman and Lambeer and Isaiah Thomas and stuff, and the Celtics were putting a beating on him, and he went by the bench and he told what's his name? Daly was the coach back then, right?
Oh yeah, the bad boys.
He said, you better put a second guy on me because this guy can't cover me for anything.
Right during the game, he did that, right?
Right there in the game, in between, while they were going up and down the court, Bird said, "Really? You're only going to put one guy on me?"
Late in Pete Maravich's career, when he was with the Celtics, and Pete was just a shell of himself, Bird said, "They got 2 guys double teaming me. If you were any better, they wouldn't be double teaming me." I think he said that in a huddle one time. A lot of the NBA players laughed about that because Pete Maravich was a great player in his prime.
Let me tell you something about Pete Maravich. I remember watching him play. I was a kid. I was a young kid, but I was watching basketball. And 2 things. I'm diverse in here from the subject, but it's kind of interesting. Pete Maravich averaged like 44 points during, I believe, his junior or senior year. There was no
three-pointer. Without the three-point line.
Yeah, there was no three-point shot. Pete Maravich was the greatest college basketball player ever. Pete Maravich, had they had the three-point shot when he first went into the NBA, would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, and he would have averaged over 50 points a game at LSU if they'd added the three-point shot.
Oh, my God. He would have averaged over 60 points a game.
Joe, what about these stats?
They were getting the ball.
Joe, what about these stats on Trevor Lawrence? This isn't too bad. What do you think about this? Trevor Lawrence in 2025 regular season stats, 4,007 yards passing, 29 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, had a 58.3 QBR, which is 14th in the league, but 29 touchdown passes and 12 interceptions. And he seemed to get better and better as the season went on this year. He was a much better player in the second half of the year.
Let me stop you right there and ask you 2 quick questions. Okay. How many lost fumbles and how many sacks?
Well, that's when you get into this area of boneheaded plays where he might, he might just throw the ball away or drop the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the area he's got to clean up. as time goes on.
I think he's got the right coach to do that. I think
I think
Cohen is going to straighten Trevor Lawrence. Listen, this is their first year together, and as we talked about before, they were bumping heads for the first 5-6 games of the season until finally
I think during that winning streak, Trevor finally bought into what Liam Cohen was trying to do in Jacksonville.
No, he bought into it, and then they started a winning streak.
Okay.
Trevor Lawrence finally said, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, and I can get better listening to what he's saying and telling me to do.
The only thing I'll say different from what you're saying, Joe, is I think the first 2 or 3 wins in the winning streak were attributed to the defensive line with the pressure. I think the pressure by the Jags defensive line was very good in the first 2 or 3 games of the winning streak, and then that started going away, and then that's when Trevor elevated his game, and he kept the winning streak going.
Well, I mean, I remember San Diego coming into town and Jacksonville blew them out like 35-6.
The LA
remember
Chargers.
That?
The LA Chargers?
Yeah.
Not San Diego, but LA Chargers. Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, well, they'll always be the San Diego.
They did.
That was a big, big win.
Joe,
I believe that's when they turned the corner.
I never thought they'd win 13 games this year. I thought maybe they might at the most win 10, but they won 13 games in 2025.
And if you take away the beginning of the season, they could have gone, they easily could have won 14, 15 games.
Well, and I have to congratulate our executive producer, JC, because he was the guy that was telling me they could win 12 or 13 with Trevor. And now even, Travis Hunter got hurt. He only caught 1 touchdown pass. But then you had Jacoby Myers, the trade for Jacoby Myers. I think Jacoby Myers, the whole time he was with the Jags this year, he might have dropped 1 pass. And, then you've got Brian Thomas Jr. is a very good receiver. He's still got to improve his game some as far as receiving passes. I don't think he was really that fond about going over the middle. But otherwise, on the sideline routes, the touchdown routes, the end zone routes, I should say, I did see him catch a short pass in the end zone where he was kind of going over the middle. So I think if you get BTJ to improve his game, I think he can be a true number 1. And Jacoby Myers is the veteran receiver because he's like 29 years old. Parker Washington, in the 3rd year of his rookie deal, Joe, he finally had a breakthrough season with the Jaguars.
Well, Jacoby Myers is a professional wide receiver. This is the first professional wide receiver that Trevor Lawrence has had. This guy is not super fast, but you throw the ball anywhere near him, he will catch the ball. He will hold on to it. He'll run the routes that the other receivers won't run. And the other receivers at Jacksonville, Trevor Hunter and Thomas, they're young dudes. This guy knows what he's doing. He's professional. This was the difference maker in my mind of what turned the season around for Trevor Lawrence. And it will only continue to get better now that they'll have a training camp together and be able to integrate other things into the system. And I will say they need to take Travis Hunter and just put him at wide receiver. Forget about this double defensive back stuff. He's not that guy. Dion was a punt returner and a defensive back, and then he went and played baseball. Travis Hunter, you can't but forget about being a defensive back. We don't need you to be a defensive back. We need you to go run your ass down the field and let us heave the ball to you and you catch some of those one or two a game. Yeah. While Thomas and Jacoby is going across the middle.
Yeah. Well, then there's been some people, including there's been some people, including myself, that says, maybe even though the Jags got a lot of defensive backs or deep at defensive back, that he could go to defense and then just become the 4th wide receiver and come out there for, a handful of specialty plays on offense.
How'd that work out last year? Didn't work. Put him at wide receiver and punt returner.
Okay. Okay, well, Joe, you got some definite opinions on that as you light that stove.
Well, if the Jags are scoring 30 points a game, they don't need Travis Hunter to stop them from the opponent from scoring 24. Put him on the offense. That's where he's going to do his best work. Get the ball in his hand, end arounds and stuff. You saw what Washington would do. How about if you got Washington and Hunter? The teams don't know which way you're going. The possibilities are endless. Put them on offense.
I think early in the year, the Jaguars left a lot of points out there on the field. They should have and could have scored more points than they did in the first half of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
But then it improved. We'll see what happens. Hey, Joe, you got Barry Manilow April the 27th at the arena.
I got to tell you, Scott,
I've been talking about Barry Manilow.
I've been doing this guest show on a podcast for the last 4 or so weeks, and you have not failed to bring up Barry Manilow every single week like he's some kind of hero of mine or something. And so I'll tell you what, you'll say Barry Manilow, and I will say Three Dog Night. I'm going to see Three Dog Night in June.
Three Dog Night was in the area. They were in Columbus, Georgia. They were also in Jacksonville. They've already made the tour through here. But Three Dog Night, they come here almost every year, Joe. They really do.
Well, good. You should go and see them. I would say you should go and see them. Is Barry Manilow supporting the podcast?
No.
Is he a sponsor of the podcast, Scott?
No.
All right. So then we don't need to talk. No, but none of your listeners are going to see Barry Manilow. they're Three Dog Night. Joy to the world.
There was a guy that slipped me his business card the other day, and he said he wanted to be mentioned on the podcast. We're going to have him on in the next podcast, but. So the podcast is picking up in popularity, Joe, and a lot of people are saying that they're happy to have you out here too.
Those are the smart ones.
Yeah, the executive producer JC says, "Hey, you got to do it with New York Joe." I said, "Yeah, Joe's coming on here about once a week." Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's when the ratings go up.
Well, we'll see. I think
they might listen. Everybody might not agree with what I say, but they'll definitely want to dispute it either way. They'll either agree or they won't agree, and it won't be quiet.
Well, Joe, how are your Red Sox looking going into baseball this year?
They're going to have a great pitching staff, but I'm a little worried about they got too many left-handed bats in the lineup, and they're hoping for this kid, Roman Anthony, to be a superstar, and he might need a little bit more work, but they do have a great. They're going to be top of the league in pitching. So we'll see what happens.
When you're at Fenway Park, you need right-handed hitters, right?
Yeah, you do.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Go Braves. Go Braves.
Well. Yeah, go Braves.
So I appreciate you joining us here. I mean, we've got to salute the Seattle Seahawks. They won the NFL title, the whole ball of wax. Did it surprise you Seattle went all the way? Because they had a pretty good team most of the year.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't surprised going. I thought they'd win going into the Super Bowl, and it's funny that when you think about it, it came down to the Rams and Seattle, and had that 2-point conversion not been awarded to Seattle, the Rams would have won that game.
Wow. Yeah.
Seattle would have gone on the road for 3 road games, and the Rams would have been at home for 2 home games.
Wow.
That was the play of the year right there. That was a huge play. That was a difference maker, I believe, that decided who was the Super Bowl champion this year.
And the Rams quarterback Stafford, he won the MVP.
He deserved it.
Okay. Well, Joe, we appreciate you joining us. Want to thank our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, the MedMaxMix.weebly.com, JC's great show. Check out JC from the Pub on Thursday nights. We got links to all these shows on the website at bigjreport.com. And Joe, I appreciate you joining us here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast, episode show number 16B, actually, because I guess it's 16A. We wanted to mention 16 again because of Trevor Lawrence. This kid's a franchise quarterback, Joe, but he's got to eliminate some mistakes, right?
So we moved on from the number 14.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, 14.
Yeah.
Number 14 was a quarterback with Seattle.
Yes, Sam Darnold. So listen, Trevor Lawrence is going to be okay. He'll be okay. So we'll see what happens in the coming couple of months with the free agency and in the draft and stuff like that. And hopefully Jacksonville can fill in a couple of holes and stuff. And I think they need to hang on to the running back ETM. So we'll see what happens.
The rumor has it that he will leave in free agency, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Where's he going to go?
I'd like to keep him too. I don't know. Rumors. I heard AFC North Division, maybe. I've heard different rumors, but we'll find out soon because the Jags are not going to be able to keep everybody together. But they got a pretty deep in defensive backs, linebackers.
What's their situation with the salary cap?
They're over the cap.
Oh, all right. They've been dealing with Well, listen, New Orleans has been over the cap for quite a few years, and even when they were winning with Drew Brees, they just kicked the can and you just renegotiate contracts and stuff. So I'm sure Jacksonville will be doing something like that, and they'll be all right. But I would like to just remind your listeners that I appreciate everybody listening to us and check out the podcast on Wednesday and Thursday for JC and Mad Max and stuff like that. They're good dudes and they'll give you some enjoyment.
Those are actually what we're doing is a podcast, but what they're doing is actually internet radio shows.
That's awesome.
LakeUvalahits.com and MadMaxMix.weebly.com, and check out those shows. Of course, Joe, and we appreciate you joining us here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And this is actually episode show 16A. We'll call it and make it. And we'll be back again next time, Joe. I'm sure you'll go around with me again next weekend.
Oh, no doubt about it, Scott. And I might have to look into Mad Max and JC and put myself on as a guest host on guest appearance on those shows too. Yeah, let me around.
Hey, they'll play requests for you too. I know you're going to want to hear some Leonard Skinner on Mad Max's show.
As long as it's English speaking, I'm fine.
Okay, Joe, thanks for joining us here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This is your host Scott and our special guest, New York Joe. New York Joe, thanks for joining us. You have a great day.
My pleasure, Scott. Have a lucky day.
Take care, Joe. Hey, good luck, man. You still going to the track, Joe?
Yeah, I was actually there yesterday for they had a big race down at the fairgrounds.
Oh, wow, okay.
I met, I was talking to Steve Asmussen, who's the all-time leading trainer in North America.
Wow.
We had a nice little conversation. So.
I know you're big on the horses, the big horses.
I am.
Joe, you take care. We'll talk to you next weekend.
Thank you, Scott.
Take care, Joe. Enjoyed it.